So where did the growth engine come from? Well, look, I want to be honest with you for a second. 2016, I almost filed for bankruptcy. I was genuinely having a conversation with my wife saying, look, we're going to have to go bankrupt. I don't really have a choice. And that happened because at the beginning of 2016, I was doing absolutely great. I had a studio in the town where I'm from, in Hartlepool, and I'd just opened another studio in Brighton, right near Brighton Pier, and things were going absolutely incredibly. And then out of the blue, all of a sudden, I had a medical emergency. I had a burst appendix, and I ended up in hospital. And when I was in the hospital, they basically told me that there'd been a very bad issue with my appendix, and rather than being out for a few days, I was off work for a month. And a month out of tattooing, when tattooing is basically the majority of your income, is an incredibly long time. So I really felt that. After that month, my doctor got in touch with me and said for some reason the people in the labs had scanned my appendix and they found cancer. So I was told I was going to have to go back to hospital and have the section of my bowel that your appendix is attached to, that would have to also come out. So if there was cancer in my body, that would come out too. I had that operation, and that was an 8-week recovery. 8 weeks without working. So in 14 weeks, I'd had 12 weeks of no work. And at that point, I was genuinely struggling. Now, I had to go through cancer treatment at that time, which anybody who's ever gone through it, it takes it out of you. So I couldn't work then either. And that turned into even more time. So I had had 4, nearly 5 months out of work, not working at all, just scraping by with the little money that my artists in my studios were earning. Now, because I wasn't in my studios, one of them was brand new. So guy who was there was holding the fort and doing a good job keeping it open for me, but it wasn't earning anything. It was paying his bills, but it wasn't paying me anything. And my other studio in Hartlepool, because I wasn't making it home and I wasn't there to manage it, that started struggling too. So I was genuinely losing a lot of money. And I started to come out of the other side of it. I started to get healthy and I was feeling good about myself, and I started to go back to work. And then I got hit with an infection, and the infection turned into septicemia, and I was rushed into intensive care. I was in intensive care for a week. I lost 3 stone of body weight, and I was out for 3 months. I could not work. The nurses in the hospital told me that if I'd come into hospital 1 hour later, I would have died from the septicemia, which gives you an idea of just how poorly I was. So the next 3 months was spent building my body back up and trying to get back to a healthy place. And that was another 3 months. It was 8 months out of 11 that I wasn't working. And I actually sat one day, weak as a kitten, and I remember saying to my wife, I was like, I'm going to have to declare bankruptcy. I had a very unforgiving landlord who didn't care that I'd been in hospital. He just wanted his rent. I had companies who wanted paying. They didn't care that I'd been in hospital. They just wanted their money, and I didn't have the money to pay them. So when I actually finally, very weakly, made my way back to my studio and started to work, I knew I was in a very dark place. I was in a very deep ditch, and I felt like I couldn't get out. And one thing that I found from this is when you're genuinely right at the bottom and your back's against the wall and you think that your life is falling apart, that's the time where you will do absolutely anything, and you will work as hard as you possibly can. Nothing is off limits, but you will work the hardest you've ever worked to make sure that your life gets back to normal, and that's what I did. Now, fortunately for me, my career before tattooing was in management. It was in retail sales, it was in sales, business-to-business sales and finance. So I had a very long background of management, promotions, marketing, selling. So I thought, I need to employ this. I can't just run a tattoo studio the old way like I always had. I needed to do things in a more modern, methodical and systemized way. So I put everything that I'd learned over the previous 12 years into my tattoo studio. And I used the time that I had to myself to really create a process that would make my studio boom. And what I did is I broke studios down into 7 key areas, these key pillars. And I refined each of those pillars and said, these are the key things that any tattoo studio would need to do to really build an incredible structure to work from. And I called that the growth engine. So that when every single one of these 7 pillars is running in tandem at their best, business will boom. And I moved my focus away from Instagram and Facebook and online media and all that shit. And I basically said, look, I need to stop focusing on that nonsense and focus on my clients and bringing clients in and making sure those clients are booked into my business, nurturing and growing a database and a growth engine that will make my business strong. Now, it took me about 1.5 years to really refine that and make it work. But within 2 months, I saw business get back to normal. And I was earning good money again. So I didn't have to declare bankruptcy, fortunately. But I started to see things grow beyond what they were beforehand. So I refined systems more, and I put some more things into place and kept tweaking and trialing, and things just got better and better and better. And I hired more staff, and then I hired more staff, and my studio started to boom. I had a family, and even with all this extra expense of the studios and the businesses and a family, I had more than enough money to do with what I needed because my diary was packed. I used the growth engine to refocus my business to a client database, and my business boomed as a result. Now, it's been that way for over 8 years, and my business now today still booms. Everybody who works in my business has a full diary. I have new people coming into my business. I'm about to open a new studio, and I know that because of my growth engine and the systems that are inside of that, I will always have full diaries for myself and everybody who works with me. So the aha moment with the growth engine was me realizing it's not about Facebook and social media and TikTok and all of the nonsense that comes with that. It's not about texting people at 9 o'clock on a night at home just so I could get a little bit of business. It was about focusing my business. It was about using specific business techniques that I'd learned the decade before I started tattooing and employing them professionally and making sure that my focus was on clients and a client database and the growth engine that grew that organically to fill my diary. And once that growth engine was in place, like I said, my business has boomed. And every time I've built a business since then, the other businesses that I've worked in, I use the growth engine the same way, I use the same 7 pillars, and things always work a treat. Now, in the last 2 years, I have been coaching people with these 7 pillars and using this growth engine to show them how to build their business. And I have taught people who've just opened businesses and were struggling. I've taught people who had long-term businesses that were getting quiet. And I've taught people who just did not have any structure, so their life was bedlam. And I've shown people how to do things in a methodical, systematic way that frees up so much of their time. 70% of their time is now freed up, so they don't have to spend it on the business. And their growth engine is building their business and filling their diary every single day. So this is a proven asset that if you use, your business and your diary will thrive. If you want to see how it works, the Inconomics Academy already has some free starter tools in there. You can give them a go. Use them correctly, and you will see that they make a difference. People have already used these, and I always get great feedback from them, but it's just simple techniques for you to learn that are going to make a difference to your business. Please go use them now. And we actually have something called a growth score test. Now, that is a bunch of questions. If you answer the questions, it gives you a score at the end, and it tells you where your business is strong and where your business could do with some work, and it explains to you how we can go about that. It gives us the ability to say to you, do these things, you're going to have an absolutely incredible business. It's a lot of fun. The people who've already done it love it. Give that a go too, the growth score test. It's a genuinely great tool. And I just want to reiterate, these are things that I've been teaching people for 2 years now, and we've seen some great results. This is stuff that I've been using for myself for 8 years, so I know it works. It works an absolute treat. And I want to do this because I saw the industry struggling. I saw great artists who I love, whose work I love, struggling and saying they were going to leave the industry because they were so quiet. So I've made this my aim to make sure that everybody can have access to these techniques, and that once you learn them, you'll never struggle ever again. I want to help the industry, 1,000 shops, to turn into successful top 1% studios. If you're one of those people, like I said, go have a look around the academy, use the free tools, and get in touch with me if there's anything else you want to ask.